Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds while everyone comes in. I will be right back to you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lauren Simpson, and I wanted to let you know that we are pleased to offer this event through the Community Navigator Pilot Program and the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce. Give me a couple of seconds while I share my screen so I can do a quick introduction as to who it is that we are and what we do. There we are. And here's more information related to the Community Navigator program. I'll be sure to include a link into our chat so that those of you who would like to take a look and learn more can do so. Get my technology to work. All right. Again, my name is Lauren Simpson, and I'm with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. We are a national program with over 1,000 locations throughout the country. And we offer no-cost services to local small businesses. And our services are at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. Since they're free, you might as well take part in our free resources. For the Los Angeles network, which is the network that I represent, we have locations throughout the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And there is a map in front of you, and you can see where our locations are. You'll notice that we are as far out as Camarillo, over to Santa Clarita, Pasadena, all the way down to Long Beach. Deeper dive into what it is that we do. We offer no-cost business advising, and they're at no cost to you, again, because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. And so you're able to get connected with business experts in the fields of finance and taxes, as well as marketing. You name it, we've got it. We've got resources for you. And then we also offer virtual trainings, much like the training you have joined today. So please know that we are here to help. Contact us to get started. You can reach us by phone, 866-588-7232, or online, smallbizla.org/new client. For those of you that have joined us today and are outside of the Los Angeles network or area, excuse me, please go to americassbdc.org/find-your-SBDC. And with that, I'm going to stop my screen share and do some quick housekeeping. For those of you who are new to our show, please be sure to put all of your questions into the Q&A. Again, questions into the Q&A. We want to be sure that they're on topic. So if you have any questions that aren't on topic, I will list my email address, and you can shoot me an email. Send me your question and we'll be sure to get you some answers. We're going to reserve the chat for any resources that GB and or Mike would like me to share with you. Again, I will share a link for the Community Navigator program. I'll share a link and phone number to contact our offices should you like to become a client and take part in our resources. And I believe that's all that I owe you guys. So again, thank you and good afternoon, GB. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Mike should be joining us shortly.
Perfect. Perfect. In the meantime, I'll do my screen share and let me know, please, if you see my screen.
Will do.
Let's see. Do you see it?
I can see it. Suspended
Perfect.
entity.
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
shall we wait for a mic or should we get started?
Oh, let's go for it.
Okay, perfect. So if any questions come in, I will rely on you to help me navigate those.
Sure thing.
Suspended entities. Whenever we request the Secretary of State of any state, California or anyone else, they give us a charter, they give us a piece of paper giving us their blessings that we can operate as an LLC, as a corporation, as a limited partnership, limited liability partnership, any of the other alphabet soup that we are aware of under the sun. But with that comes certain responsibilities. We have to treat our entity as a separate taxpayer, as a separate legal person, and we cannot use our entities as an alter ego. If we fail to do that, if we fail to be a good fiduciary of our entity, and we violate any tax or any legal expectations, bounds, or rules, our entity can be suspended and eventually may even be dissolved by the Secretary of State if we continue to stay suspended. And if we get suspended, we lose any and all attributes that come our way, whether it's tax benefits or legal benefits. We lose all of those if our entity is suspended. So it's a pretty major development if your entity is suspended, or if you do things or are doing things that may lead to the suspension of your entity. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fine, so I'm a little late. Hopefully you're doing well.
I'm doing well as well. You came at the perfect timing. I just gave a very brief 30-second introduction, so you haven't missed anything. And since you are legally trained,
Yeah,
I would rely on your expertise to help me from the legal point of view.
Great, let's go through it.
Perfect. So we're talking about suspended entities and the ramifications that come with it. Now, this is something you never, ever want to take lightly. Especially right now, you may have done things right, but because of the backlog, because of a lot of the issues, your entity may have been suspended. It is very important that you take steps to correct it right away. Otherwise, it can, if it hasn't already, jeopardize your entire business. So suspended entities. What are the consequences? No matter what the reason, your fault or not, maybe an advisor's fault, does not matter. You and your entity will suffer the consequences if your entity is suspended. The state does not care. Just like I'm an accountant. If I mess up your tax returns, I am not liable. You're the taxpayer, it's your responsibility. Now, privately, you may sue me, privately, you may come after me, privately, you may make a request to make it whole, and I may do that. I have that responsibility to you, not to the IRS, not to the Franchise Tax Board, because you accepted your tax return, you suffer the consequences, and whomsoever you put the blame on is your business, not the IRS, not the Franchise Tax Board, not the Secretary of State. So no matter whose fault it is or whose fault it is not, it could be a technical glitch, it could be something happened, something you did the filing, the state doesn't have it, does not matter. No matter what the reason, take steps to correct it immediately. Why? Because the consequences can be quite dire. You legally cannot do business in this state or any state if you are suspended. It is equivalent to hiring somebody who may be in this country without the proper immigration statuses. They may be good people, they may be competent, but if you hire them under the immigration law, you will be held liable. By the same token, it could be a technical glitch, it could be no fault of your own, whatever the reason may be. If you are suspended, if you do any business in your entity, you are doing so illegally. You no longer have the blessings nor the charter from the Secretary of State to do business as an LLC, as a corporation, as a limited partnership, as a limited liability partnership, whatever your entity status may be. All of your contracts with your customers, with your vendors, with your suppliers, anybody and everybody is subject to voidability and unenforceability. So if you have a big client and they want to leave you, this gives them a perfect opportunity to leave you. You may have a contract, your employees, your NDAs, your non-disclosure agreements, any and all agreements, any and all contracts that you have with anybody, because the entity is no longer in good standing, all of your contracts are subject to voidability. So if somebody says, I don't want to do business with you, a contract, and you cannot enforce it, you cannot take them to court because you're no longer in good legal standing. Also, you will lose, or you may lose, depending upon your license, any business or professional license. I see this happen a lot in the construction industry. You may have a general contractor license under your entity, they will not renew you. And because you're no longer legal, your license is no longer legal, which means any work that you may be doing starting that day when you got suspended, you have personal unlimited liability. And any work that you do, you could be sued for carrying out your trade or your business illegally. It's like driving without a license. If you're a suspended license, you may have a license, but if the DMV suspends it, you're driving illegally. It's like as if you never had the license, even though the expiration date may be in the future, even though you may have paid your fees, you got suspended, you may not drive. Any driving you do is subject to imprisonment, subject to fines. Same thing for your entity. Any professional and business licenses you have, you just lost them until further notice. You no longer have a right to your name. So any trademarks, any patents, anything under your business, again, non-enforceable. Any trademarks, gone. By the way, while you are suspended, anybody can file a new corporation, a new LLC, a new LP or whatever using your name. And if that happens, if you're suspended for, let's say, 3 or 4 days, and somebody files with your exact business name, Secretary of State will approve it. And then they will, even though you may get a reviver, you may get in good standing, they will tell you, well, by the way, while you were suspended, we gave your name away. You have to choose a new name. And you cannot fight them on it. Now, I've seen cases where the person goes to a new person and says, hey, I'll give you money to buy my name back. But you basically, that's something that you're entitled to. You have to pay somebody their asking price, whether they want $1 or $1 million or more. You no longer have rights to your name. And you will be forced to choose a new name if you get your company back in the active status. If your entity owns any real estate, you cannot sell it, you cannot transfer it, you cannot exchange it, you cannot finance it, you cannot refinance it. Now, some people create LLCs to hold real estate. You're suspended. You no longer exist. It's like having a family member who owns your home, and God forbid they get in a car accident, they're sitting in a hospital. If you don't have an estate plan, if you don't have power of attorney, you cannot do anything. Your entity is basically in a coma. And if nobody has any legal rights to do any business in any capacity for this entity, until that entity comes out of coma, it is revived. No extensions. So guess what? You may be suspended because you did or did not do something, and you thought you filed for the extension, and the IRS will give you an extension. The state of California will not. So starting on March 15th, you are accruing more penalties, interest, and fees. No extension whatsoever. Why? Because you no longer exist. How can, if a person passes away, can they file for an extension? No, they're dead. Your entity is, in the eyes of the state, in coma or dead for as far as they can tell. And if they owe you money, if anybody owes you money, whether it's franchise tax board, whether it's EDD, whether it's CDTFA, or maybe in many cases, any jurisdiction beyond the state of California, you cannot file for any refunds. Why? Because you no longer exist. The money is now states. And every state has usually 3 or 4 years till you can file a claim. If your entity is suspended and you're trying to file a claim for a refund from 3 years ago and your entity is not revived in time, that refund will expire and the state will get to keep that money and you will never, ever get it back. Before I go on, Mike, you want to add anything to it? I have another list of consequences, but anything you want to comment on before we move on?
Just 1 or 2 things. the contractual stuff, that also speaks to trying to collect funds that are owed to you.
Indeed.
You're
Indeed.
not going to be able to go to court or press your claim against someone who owes you money.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Any
Um,
customer, yeah, you're right. Any customer can say, I'm not paying you. Why? Well, because you are here as a VP, as a CEO, as a treasurer, whatever of the corporation. But buddy, the corporation doesn't exist anymore. What if I give you the money and later on the corporation sues me because you did not put the money in the corporate account? I'm not
Right.
going to pay you. That's how they can. Now, will your customers not pay you? Maybe they will. But if somebody doesn't want to pay you, they will not. And by the way, if you have any government contracts, gone,
Yes.
done,
Right.
gone. So if you
And
are expecting any grants, gone. They may
you can't
just say,
apply.
well,
You can't apply for
you
grants.
can't apply. And even if you have something coming, they will not fund it. They may tell you, well, guess what? You have 30 days to revive your entity, or 15, whatever date they give you. And if you won't, we'll give this grant, this loan, this EIDL, this PPP, any of this stuff, we'll give it away. So many people didn't get the stimulus during the pandemic because, hey, you're telling me you want this money, you're dead. We're not going to give this money to a dead entity. So Mike, you're absolutely right about that. You
And
may
the loss of
compound.
professional licenses,
Mm-hmm.
now that's your livelihood.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
now,
Yes, sir.
could someone set up a new entity?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
how do these consequences happen or occur?
Go ahead. Oh, we have a
It's-
question that's come
yes.
in. Yeah. Oh, you got it. You're gonna answer that
Sorry,
question.
when you were not here, I had the screen open, but I'll
Yeah. You go ahead and answer that
it's-
question.
it's if you get caught, if somebody does any check on you, it's like driving without a license. If you're just driving, following the speed limit, you don't do anything, you may not get pulled over and you may not have any consequences, but there are government contractors, for example, any grants, any of this stuff, any bank, before they will fund your loan, they check just to make sure we approved your loan. You applied for the loan 30 days ago. We
Can't get a
approved
loan.
you 20 days ago. And now we're going to fund it tomorrow. We're going to check just to make sure you're still A-okay. And if they check your entity suspended, boom, no funding. Same thing with grants. Your clients, some clients, they check regularly on a monthly basis. There are some services that you can subscribe to that can give you an updated report. For example, Dun & Bradstreet, they check up on all these entities. So if somebody is running your credit report, it's only if they check it. Now, do everybody check? No, but do lawyers check? Yeah. So if somebody owes you $25, will they check? Maybe not. Somebody owes you 2,500 and it's a big amount of money for them, they may check. So it is public knowledge. If your entity is suspended, it's public knowledge. Anybody can go to any Secretary of State website, let's say California, and just type in your business name and they will tell them immediately within a matter of seconds if you are active or you're suspended. And if somebody checks and they find out, that's how you suffer these consequences. So it's like driving with a suspended license. If a cop doesn't pull you over, no harm, no foul. A cop pulls you over, dire consequences. So let's go on. What else? What are the other consequences? You cannot sue someone. If somebody owes you money, somebody does you any wrong, employment, sexual harassment, whatever the case may be, your entity cannot sue them. Your entity is not alive, it's dead. It can also not defend itself in any lawsuits. If somebody sues your entity, guess what? You have personal liability, or you may have personal liability. A lot of people start LLCs and corporations and LPs and LLPs because they want to limit their personal liability. Well, guess what? Your entity no longer exists. So where will somebody place that liability? On you? And they may also sue you for being somebody who's responsible for jeopardizing the status of your entity. Your employees may sue you that, hey, you are making our job risky. You are jeopardizing our well-being. So anybody can sue you, and guess whom they're suing? Not the entity, because it cannot. They're suing you. Now, will they do it? I don't know, it depends. If your employees have a grudge against you, will they? Maybe. Independent contractors, same thing. Because you just took an entity who relies on it, you may think is your entity, and it may be true, but so many people rely on your good decisions to be a good fiduciary of your entity. Your employees depend on your good decisions. They want their paycheck. Your independent contractors, your vendors, they want to get paid. Your customers, they want to be able to come to you, there's a problem, to service the warranty. Your government, your tax authorities. So many people depend on you to make good decisions, to make sure your entity is viable. It's no different than if you were to go buy the stock of Tesla or Google, wouldn't you want Elon Musk or any company that you buy stock in, wouldn't you want them to make good decisions so that more people want to buy that stock? So you can buy something for $100 and sell it for 1,000. You know, when people complain, all these billionaires, they make money, so do you and I. We want them to make good decisions so we can buy something for 100 and sell it for 1,000. We all want the home run. All these people are relying on your good decisions to make sure your company's value is going up. And if you jeopardize that by killing the entity, they can sue you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have personal liability for all business actions. It's like operating as a sole proprietor at that point, or a general partnership. You no longer have the protection of any charter. This is why we pay the franchise tax. This is why we pay the franchise fee. It's like protection money, right? Hey, make sure my entity is in good standing so nobody come after me, my house, my boat, my retirement account, my wages, my whatever. Well, you dropped the ball, and even though you may have paid the protection money, nobody's going to come to your aid. You have personal liability for all business taxes. The state. So you may just say, well, I'm going to abandon my entity. Some people say that, and you may get away with it. Just like anything else in life, people get away with stuff all the time, and people get caught all the time. You could be at the right place at the right time, wrong place at the wrong time. It's life. It's unfair. It happens. But if you happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, you may have personal liability for all business taxes. The state, if it chooses to, can come after you. Maybe you took too much salary. That's one criteria they use. Maybe you took too many shareholder loans. You were supposed to pay yourself a salary, but you just took a loan. Or maybe you paid yourself too many dividends. If in any way you, one or multiple shareholders or members of this LLC or corporation, personally benefited, they will come after you for the business taxes and the business actions. Oh, and by the way, you cannot close or dissolve the entity while it is suspended. So the $800 fee that you owe, it's still going to keep on accruing while you're suspended, even though you may just say, well, I'm going to abandon ship. It's still going to keep on accruing, and you cannot close it. So, and sometimes those penalties, they may send you a demand to file a tax return. And if you fail to file the tax return, you may be subject to a $2,000 penalty per tax year. Guess who's paying for that? If the state comes after you, you are liable. You cannot have any tax appeals. So maybe the tax is wrong, but they will ask you to revive the entity before you can do any tax appeal. And we'll talk about that, what you need for the reviver. Oh, and by the way, if you're running a nonprofit, you just lost your tax exempt status. So any donations coming in, the donee or the donor may not be able to deduct them, and it's taxable income to your entity. Anything you want to add to this list, Mike?
We've mentioned personal liability, but let me just mention a couple of things. When you lose these protections, your current assets are at risk, your future assets are at risk,
Yes,
your current income is at risk, your future income is at risk.
indeed.
Oftentimes I hear clients say, well, I don't need to set up an entity, I don't own anything, or I'm not
Correct.
worried about this. Because no, that's not the proper attitude.
Your
Because it's
inheritance too.
Thank you. Yes, inheritance. Plus anyone else who's involved in the business, any
Correct.
partners, their assets in future and current income is at risk.
Indeed.
right? So do not take this lightly. You spend a lot of time, effort, energy, and money to go ahead and create this entity. One reason is to get protections, possibly tax, and now you lose it because you didn't file a statement of. Well, you're going to go through that.
Yes.
How this happens.
Yes. So
Right.
this is the thing. I mean, imagine if, how badly the stock market does if there's any bad news of any source anywhere in the world. Ukraine is attacked by Russia, boom, the stock market crashes, right? A tornado somewhere, the market can crash. A refinery goes down, gas prices go up. I mean, your business may not be that big, but it's big enough to your employees. It's big enough to you, your shareholders, your partners, your vendors, your customers. I mean, if they get a whiff of this, it could be a wildfire because you're not doing something right. You're suspended. So be very mindful. It's nothing to be taken lightly. I'm not trying to scare you, but unfortunately, a lot of people take this suspension. No big deal. I'll get to it. No, get to it right now. That's how important this stuff is. Or stop doing business.
Yeah, stop doing.
And start a new entity, maybe.
Yeah. Can you clarify? That doesn't get rid of what you owe.
It does not. It does not. It's like skipping on child support. It will still follow you.
This Angeline wants to know, can you clarify this lawsuit? So I don't understand her questions, but yes, Angeline, anyone that sues the business, you can't defend against. Okay. And if you can't pursue lawsuits against anyone who has caused you harm, or like you said, you can't collect money from. Okay. So you can't go to court.
Can't.
In any capacity.
You can't.
Okay.
So how do you cure it? Well, usually you are suspended because either, like Mike was saying, you fail to file the statement of information, which is due every year for the corporations, every 2 years for the LLCs. It costs $25, maybe. And this is a thing. Up until 2 years ago, it wasn't a big deal. There were a lot of people who would just get away with not filing for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, and California didn't do anything. While the pandemic was raging, they couldn't do a lot of stuff because everyone was working remotely. So what California did, they invested heavily in their tech. This is why a few weeks back, they took the entire Secretary of State website down. You couldn't do anything for a couple of weeks. Nothing. No revivers, no new entities, no nothing. They were shut down like IRS was shut down for 3 months in 2020. They were completely shut down. And the new website allows them the ability to track this SOI, statement of information. And if you're late, they will penalize you $250. And if you do nothing in a couple of months, they will suspend you. So don't live with those bad habits. We're no longer living in 2020. That world is over, done for. The new technology has made Secretary of State very agile, very nimble in enforcing the statement of information. And you'll be surprised how many entities are suspended because they didn't do a statement of information in 2021 or 2022. You will be suspended like that quick nowadays.
It's an easy document. It's just a couple of fields. It's not difficult. And it's $25. Don't fall into this trap for $25. It's not about the money.
Yeah.
They just want the information.
The challenge is this. My mentor used to say a lot of things in life are easy to do and easy not to do. And when we're distracted by a TV show on Netflix, or we're disorganized, or we're busy, I mean, it's not like you're a bad person. I'm sure you got a million things to do. And Secretary of State is not high on your list, especially if you've gotten away in the past. Like, oh yeah, they will not do anything. I'll file once every 4 years. They will not even know the difference. And you're right. Or I should say, you were right.
We're right.
Starting 2022, not so much.
It's once a year. It takes 10 minutes max to fill it out.
Yeah. And we're actually starting earlier this year. We've been sending a calendar to all of our clients. What are their annual obligations? So, and then we periodically remind our clients that, hey, bud, you got to do this, $25. The penalty starts at $250, right? So some of our clients pay us a small fee every year to do this filing for them. They're like, I'd rather just pay you than be suspended, or to pay the $250 penalty plus the filing fee anyways. So figure it out.
LLC is once every 2 years. Just
And
what
see,
people,
that's a
they just
challenge, Mike.
forget. They forget. They just don't
That's a challenge
realize.
because it's once a year, once every 2 years. It's not on your radar. It's not like brushing your teeth that you have to do every day. It's not like driving, and that's a challenge because it's once a year or one. And here's the thing though, once a year or once every 2 years is the bare minimum requirement. If there's any changes to your statement of information, you need to do changes within 30 days. So if you move, if you have a change in ownership, if you have not ownership, sorry, if you have a change in corporate officers, if you have a change in the directors of your entity, maybe somebody passed away, maybe somebody resigned, maybe somebody got a divorce. If two people were owning this, let's say LLC or let's say corporation together, husband was X officer, the spouse was the other officer, and they got divorced and they no longer are together, guess what? The Secretary of State wants to know what are the changes in your entity. So the once a year, once every 2 years is bare minimum. You may have to do this every month if you have a big change in your entity every single month. The Secretary of State needs to know that. So this is why this stuff is important. Also, so why do people get suspended? Because they don't file a tax return, or they haven't paid a tax, or they haven't paid a penalty. So how do you cure it? First of all, you have to figure out what the problem is. And then you have to do one or multiple of these things to eventually cure your entity, to bring it back in the active status. And it may take sometimes months. What do you have to do? Maybe you have to file past due tax returns. Maybe you have to pay all past due tax balances. Guess what? Maybe you owe money and you go on an installment plan, you will still stay suspended. That's scary. You have to pay all penalties. You have to pay all fees. You have to pay all the interest due. You have to be spotless to get a reviver through. You have to file and pay all statement of information, and then you file a reviver request. And maybe if you do everything right, you will get a reviver. There is no guarantee. So you have to do all of that. And if you're on an installment plan, odds are you will not, they want all of their money before they will revive you. All the taxes, penalties, interest, fees, all the filings. And the challenge is, let's say if you are suspended and you were thinking your accountant or you filed for an extension and you got the extension from the IRS, you are late because there was no extension for your LLC or corporation this year. So you have to file 2021 as well because you're late. If you haven't done your bookkeeping yet because you were thinking, oh, I'll do it in August and I'll get my stuff done in September or maybe October, I'm on extension. No, you're not. There is no extension for you. You're late for a very important date. So to cure it, you have to do all of this 100%. Even if you owe $1, I've seen this. If somebody made a payment and like, oh, well, we gave you a quote up until yesterday. You made the payment this morning. You have to go to the counter, pay the remaining $1, and then we will consider reviving you. So they are very strict about that. And now there are a few exceptions. We'll talk about it, but otherwise they're very, very, very strict. And in the meantime, you're dead in water. You cannot do anything unless you take some of the other steps. Anything you want to add to this list, Mike?
Oh, you nailed it. The fee. There's a fee for the reviver request.
There is, well, it depends upon how you do the reviver. There may or may not be a fee. So you're right about that. But this is where you may have sold a real estate before you were suspended. And if you had an LLC, you may owe a $12,000 LLC franchise fee. You got to pay it in full. So be very mindful. Installment plans will not save you. Now, there is something called relief from contract voidability. The state understands. They understand that they don't want to, your business may be in coma. They don't want to kill it because if they kill the business, they know you will just file for bankruptcy or just say, well, I got nothing, and then they got nothing. So there is something, a temporary relief called RCV, relief from contract voidability. It will cost you $100 per day. You got to pay up front. The max that you will pay is the amount of tax that you owe that year. So this is where you can, it's sort of like a payment plan, but it's pretty expensive. $100 a day, right? That's $3,000 a month. So be careful. It is not available for any of the partnerships, or the LPs, the LLPs, or the general partnerships. It's only available to LLCs and corporations. But it is $100 a day. So if the state says, you know what, you owe 10 grand, it's going to cost you 10 grand. So that is something, hey, if you are a big business, it may be worth it to you to pay $100 a day for this contract voidability. There is something of a walk-in relief. So this is where if you have done everything right, you are allowed to apply for the reviver through fax or online. I think they claim they do it online, but the last I checked, they put the reviver form online, but you still have to mail it or fax it in. The form has those instructions. It's a very simple form. It just asks you for the date you're filing the form, your EIN number, your Secretary of State number, your company name, your address, and your title and signature. That's all you need. Those 6 things you need on that form. Very simple form, but you have to mail it in or you have to fax it in. It takes a couple of days, usually about 10 days for it to happen. If everything is all right, you can imagine when the pandemic hit, people tried to send it in and it took months and they were suspended in the meantime. So assuming no major macroeconomic events are happening, it takes on average 10 days. You must be current in all your filings, all of them, because you have to understand there are 2 agencies that can suspend you. Either the Secretary of State, because you did some violation, for example, not filing the statement of information, or the Franchise Tax Board. So depending upon who suspended you, who put in that request that you're not being a good fiduciary of your entity, it depends, but you must be current in all of your filings. You have to catch up, whether it takes a day, a month, or a year. You must be current on all of your payments. You may be extended a payment plan. You could get a temporary relief, but in the meantime, you're still suspended. So to get a full, complete reviver, you must be current in all of that. In lieu of faxing it in or mailing it in, if you want immediate reviver, you have to walk into one of the Franchise Tax Board offices. They have one in Santa Ana, they have in downtown LA, the head office in Sacramento. They have a few other offices, and depending upon which local office it is, you have to make an appointment first. And these appointments are usually booked for 2 or 3 weeks. So if you want a walk-in reviver, book early on while you're filing everything, while you're gathering everything, set yourself a deadline. And you have to walk your appointment. They will give you appointments until 4:35 in the afternoon. But if you want a walk-in immediate reviver, you have done everything right, your appointment must be before usually about 12 noon, because it takes an hour or so to get everything sorted out. But your appointment cutoff time is not 1 o'clock. Everything must be processed by them by 1 or 2 o'clock. Each office has its own deadline. If your appointment is at 12:30, and by the time you're done with that appointment is 1:15, you're not getting an immediate reviver. Their time is 1 o'clock, it's 1:15 now. Now, could they make an exception? Maybe. But now you're at the mercy of somebody with a badge and power. And I've had good experiences and I've had some bad experiences. You know, most of these people are good people. But like any other job, when you walk into a restaurant, you walk into a hotel, you walk into any business, sometimes you will get good customer service. Sometimes you'll get bad customer service. I've had one employee once said, hey, guess what? I'm in retirement mode. I don't care. I want to take my sweet time. Well, but we're approaching 1 o'clock. Not my problem. Can't force them. So you make your appointment at 8 a.m. is what I'm trying to suggest. Make your appointment at 8 a.m. That's the first appointment they have. give yourself 4 or 5 hours to go through this process, because they will turn over every stone to check. And by the way, if you're suspended, your risk of audit goes up after you've done all the filing. Because if you're filing a tax return from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago, they may want to check. How do you know? If your record was so poor, did you make stuff up, or do you have substantial authority to base your assertions on? So be mindful of that. Make room in your budget for that. If you get an audit notice, do you have the time and the money to take care of it? Now, to do the walk-in reviver, though, you must have one of the 4 valid reasons. You can do regular reviver, which is through mail or fax, but if you want immediate relief, you must either be in litigation. Walk in the door, hey, I'm being sued, or I need to sue somebody. I have done everything that you have asked me. I've paid everything. I've filed everything. I'm current. Give me the reviver so I can go defend myself in this lawsuit or sue somebody. Or you may be in a business escrow, not a personal escrow, not an investment, whatever. Your business, you're either buying or selling your business or some asset of your business. So you have some sort of an escrow for your business and you need this thing. Or you have a pending loan, whatever the loan may be. It could be EIDL, it could be PPP back in the day. It could be an SBA loan. It could be a private loan. You must show, you can't just say, well, I'm in a loan. You have to show them that it is a bona fide business loan, and the lender has put a contingency that they will not fund you until and unless you're back in active status. And some of you who are self-employed like me, if you are suspended, you apply for a personal loan, maybe a mortgage or whatever, and you say, oh yeah, I got income. Yeah, where's the income coming from? I have my own business. Your business is suspended. Your personal loans and refinances could be in jeopardy. So be very careful of that. But if your personal loan is in jeopardy, the Franchise Tax Board does not care. Secretary of State does not care. That's a personal loan, bud, not a business loan. So be very careful of those boundaries. Or you must have a pending federal grant, and they have given you 10 days or 15 days or 30 days to get your act together and get your company back in active status. So you have done all the filings, you have paid every penny that you owe them, and now you want immediate relief because you showed up at 8 a.m. with an appointment, so that you can send, they will give you a certificate that you are now revived, you're in good active standing. The online may still take 24 hours, but they will give you a certificate that as of, what is today, June 16th, this entity is in good standing. And then you have to hope that the grantor or the bank or the escrow company or your lawyer or the opposing lawyer will accept it, because they could just say, well, I don't know, maybe you forged it. Online, it still says you're suspended. So you are subject to that assertion still. But if you have the bona fide document, you are active the moment you're handed that certificate. I got maybe 1 or 2 more slides. Anything you want to add to this, Mike?
That was a really good explanation.
Thank you, sir. It's
Must
this
make
stuff
them
is
so the
scary.
appointment can be made online
Yes, sir.
or by phone.
Yes. And their new system is pretty cool. It's you make the appointment online, you can put your cell phone number in, they will text you if there's a long queue, maybe your appointment is at 10 o'clock and is running late, they will text you, hey, you were pushing your appointment by 15 minutes. I mean, it's pretty cool. But the uncool thing is now they're tracking everything.
Now I noticed calls into the California Secretary of State, the wait time recently has been expanded dramatically.
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5 hours.
If you're lucky, yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. If you call after 2 o'clock, good luck. They will just say, we're too busy. Call back tomorrow.
Right. And I asked why that is happening. It's because sometimes the calls take half an hour or an hour.
Yeah.
And then it's not a 5-minute phone call.
It's not a 5-minute phone call. You're right. And here's the other challenge. I was helping one of my clients to revive their entity, and they call me, they, hey, I called the Secretary of State. They said they have no record. Secretary of State is huge. Sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. And they had to do a special investigation. They thought I'm not doing my job, but then they got a call from the, oh yeah, don't worry, we got it, there was a delay. So be patient with them, because if the issue, I mean, at most all of these issues are handled by the Franchise Tax Board. So if you fail to file the statement of information, that's a Secretary of State problem. They will send a notice to Franchise Tax Board to suspend you, because they want Franchise Tax Board to collect the $250 penalty. So Franchise Tax Board has to send the request or the order, whatever you want to call it, to the Secretary of State that, hey, now this entity has done everything that you and I asked them to do. They have done all the filings, they have paid everything, we're good. You may now go ahead and reactivate them. So the Franchise Tax Board holds a lot of power in this. They're the bill collector, they're the muscle, and they flex their muscle. So be patient with them. There could be a miscommunication. And that's another reason why there are long holds, because people are calling it, I did everything right. Why is my entity still suspended? Be patient. It may take up to 10 days. So that's another reason why the long waits. Who may file for a reviver? Anyone. And I literally mean anyone. The CEO, the accountant, the janitor, the independent contractor, the landlord. Because remember how I told you that so many people depend on your good business decisions? The Secretary of State does not care who revives it. The Franchise Tax Board, they got their money, they don't care. Anybody who has any interest in the survivability, in the viability, in the thriving of this entity, LLC, corporation, LLPs, whatever the alphabet soup is, anybody can sign that form. So when you get the reviver form, a lot of people think, oh, I have to be the CEO or the CFO. Nope. You can have your janitor, you can have anybody. You can have the vendor who sells the fruit or soda or hot dog in front of your office sign this reviver form. Secretary, this is why I've said many times before, our tax system is a very amoral, not immoral, amoral system. Doesn't care. Pay up, thank you for doing business, have a good day. So anybody has any interest in the viability of your entity can revive it. So the reason I also bring it up, a lot of times small business owners say, dude, I'm busy, I cannot deal with this, I got bigger problems. I respect that. Get your mom to do it. Anybody 18 and over, legal or illegal in this country, doesn't matter. Get somebody to do it. Us or anybody. Get it done. As I've shared already with you, the consequences are quite dire. Now and in the future. Like Mike said, it's not just what you own right now. You may win the lotto tomorrow. Guess what? Who's getting all their money after taxes? The tax agency. So all the exuberance that you have, all the dreams that you have could come crashing down if you're not careful. So don't be a zombie. That's my presentation for today. If your company is suspended, revive it or make alternate plans. That's all I have today, Mike. Anything you want to add? Anything else we want to discuss? Any questions that may have come in, sir?
Let me go ahead and share my screen. So some people may not know how to check to see if they're suspended. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I have to leave in about 5 minutes today, if you don't mind. At 1:55, I have a call at 2.
We can end 1:55. So
thank you, sir.
As GB said, the Secretary of State has redone its site, and they did a pretty good job.
Very good job, yeah.
There's a link here to do a search. You can search by file name or file number. Number is the number assigned to you when you set up your business. I'm going to put in, just a random number, a random name, okay, to see what comes up here. And you're going to see down the bottom, there should have been some things come up. And here, it will tell you who the agent for service process is, the type of company, where it's located, et cetera. And if I just pick, see, it says suspended right there.
Mhm.
Wonder Tire Corp was started in 1998, has been suspended by the FTB. This one has been suspended by the Secretary of State.
Mhm.
One might be for taxes, one might be for failure to file the SOI.
Mhm.
And if you want to find out more information about something, you can go here, and it's going to give you some basic information.
You
Last
see that,
filing date,
Mike?
etc.
The red statement of information due July 31st,
Oh,
2021. They haven't done it. So now they are at risk. Now this is
well,
an
July. This
LLC.
is due.
Oh,
It's
this is
due
an
July
LLC.
30. Oh, yeah,
But this
they're
was
late.
due in 21 last year.
Right, it's late.
So they already have the penalty for 250, and they may be suspended if they don't take action soon. So whoever this entity is, One Studio Wonderland Production LLC. So you see this, we didn't have that information before. This is brand new, effective what, March or April when they took it
April, I
down.
think it was. They
Yeah.
took it down for like a
This
week.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
So this is brand new stuff.
right.
They're
And
late.
you can go here
Yeah.
and look at, various, penalty.
There you
There you
go.
go.
Now they even put that on there on January 1st, 2022. They notified them of a penalty certification. So if they don't take care of it, they will be suspended.
And look what it's for, GB.
Yeah,
Same information.
yeah.
Okay.
So
And then
all
you
this
can
stuff is public knowledge.
download. So that's how you check things. I'm going to stop that share.
I'm glad
It's a-
you shared that, Mike. That was a great idea.
Right. It's the California Secretary of State Business Name Search. Okay. Monique, is there a service that can help you revive your business in our corp? What type of company should you look for? CPAs can help you revive it. Business
Yeah.
attorneys can help you revive it. Talk to us.
Yeah, we can help you.
We can help you.
Yeah.
Okay. Besides doing everything right, is there a safety net or something you can do to protect your assets in case your entity is suspended? No.
I mean, I guess you could get an insurance policy. So if somebody has any sort of claim against you, and if the insurance company approves their claim, then the insurance company may pay them. I mean, besides that, Mike, I cannot think of
I can't think of
anything
a
else.
way. I mean,
No.
declaring bankruptcy.
Or selling the asset. Yeah, you can just sell the asset, a bona fide sale, because sometimes people, I'll just sell it to my son or my daughter or my aunt. It has to be a bona fide sale. But yeah, if it's your stuff,
I don't know if you can't sell. I don't even know if you can sell it.
well,
You
I
can't.
guess I'm thinking not a business asset. I'm thinking like maybe their
Sell
home.
the assets.
Yeah,
Sell
the
the home.
asset.
Right.
Yeah, not the business
Uh,
asset. The secretary say won't let you.
You
And no
can't
gas for
terminate
a
it.
company.
You can't dissolve it.
No.
The business can't go. I don't even think you can declare bankruptcy for the business. Maybe that's something I'm not sure about. If the business can declare bankruptcy,
Or you can get the temporary relief, the $100 a day option. Maybe
right?
that. So
Maybe.
I mean, either way, it's going to be expensive. There's a reason why people say prevention is better than cure.
Mhm.
That entity that you pulled up at random,
Yeah.
I mean, I hope somebody's going to find that out. They're going to respond to it. I mean, they still have time. Now, here's the thing, though. They assessed the penalty on January 4th. We're in June, right? I mean, they still have time. If they just pay that darn, and here's the other cool thing.
It's just the statement of information. That's all.
Here's the other cool thing. Maybe just this year, there's a special online link on that site.
Yeah.
If you have been assessed the $250 penalty, you can go on there, maybe pay, maybe not pay, depending. But sometimes you can pay the penalty and then immediately request a refund. And within a matter of days, they can abate the penalty and give you your money back. Now, guess what? You're not suspended yet. You paid the $250, beg, borrow, or steal, not from someone else, from one party or another, and then file a request for a refund and stay clean going forward. There is grace available right now from the Secretary of State and the Franchise Tax Board to make things right. And if you will, it's far better. And if you're already suspended, it's going to be work. And then you have to decide if the work is worth it or not for you, time and money, or if you want to make some alternate plans.
Right. You have to go. I have
Yes,
to
sir.
go. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, GB. We'll
Thank you,
see
Lauren.
everybody next week.
See you next week.
Bye now.